AM 630. WMAL.
8:37 right here on WMAL. You're listening to Mornings on the Mall. I'm Larry O'Connor alongside Brian Wilson. And joining us right now, Bret Baier, anchor a special report over at the Fox News Channel every weekday at 6 p.m. Hello, Bret.
Morning.
Well, we all woke up to a major story developing in the nation of Mali in central to western Africa. The standoff continues. We've got special operations storming the hotel, the Radisson, where many hostages had been held. And, with that, and this being the one-week anniversary of the Paris terror attacks, this has become kind of topic number one for the presidential campaign, wouldn't you say?
By far.
Yeah.
I think it's changed the whole dynamic, actually. And, who stands to benefit on that, I don't know yet. I think it's still playing itself out. I do think that how the administration responds or doesn't respond, or what they focus on, will be, a challenge for Hillary Clinton, who spoke yesterday in New York about her ISIS plan. And interestingly, she said, ISIS has to be destroyed and not contained.
Yep.
Almost pointedly at President Obama's answer to George Stephanopoulos.
All right, so that's in the presidential sector, but on Capitol Hill yesterday, you saw about, 40-some-odd Democrats joining Republicans to pass a piece of legislation, a measure, that would put more additional scrutiny on the Syrian refugees. And the president has threatened to veto it. Over in the Senate, Harry Reid says he'll do everything he can to block it. So how does this get resolved?
Well, I think, it's going to be a tough vote. It was structured in a way that was that the bill was reasonable. So it was a bill that I think Speaker Ryan wanted to get as many Democrats as possible. He got 47 of them in the House. I think it's a tough vote in the Senate against this bill that increases the screening for Syrian refugees specifically in the wake of these attacks. And listen, supporters of the president and opponents of this bill say there's already a rigorous test, 18 to 24 months, and they point to the 750,000 plus refugees who've been accepted into the U.S. since 9/11. But we're in a different time, and it is a different environment. I think this is going to be a tough vote in the Senate, and it probably gets to the president's desk. He vetoes it, and then they don't have enough to override it.
Well, then I've heard speculation that might put it on the omnibus. And in fact, some have said that they expect that would happen in the House. And then what are we in for?
Well, then we're in for a standoff where the pressure is on the president, not on House Republicans, when it comes to a shutdown of the government, which is kind of the shoe on the other foot thing.
So you got Democrats joining Republicans in the House. You got 2/3 of the governors who think this is a good idea, that we need to have some additional, scrutiny of the people who are coming in here as Syrian refugees. And a survey says 56% of American people believe that. The president doesn't seem to be in touch with the rest of Washington or the nation.
Well, the politics of it clearly turn towards the people who support this bill. In fact, the politics go a little bit further than this bill goes. Most would like to shut it down completely right now, at least in the interim, if you look at the polls. There are a lot of defenders of refugees and the positive side of incentivizing people we work with, not only the countries that are accepting tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of refugees, but also the actual people who go through a rigorous check. I think it's tough to explain to people who you're going to call in Syria to make that check for some of these people.
Bringing it back to the presidential campaign for the Republicans right now, Bret Baier, John Kasich's super PAC is spending $2.5 million on an ad that will run in New Hampshire, and this is how it begins.
On-the-job training for president does not work. Benghazi, beheadings, Paris. Our lives depend on a commander-in-chief with experience.
Now, and the image when he says, on-the-job experience or on-the-job training doesn't work, there's a picture of Barack Obama alongside Donald Trump and Ben Carson. Now, whether this helps John Kasich himself is yet to be seen. He needs a lot of help. But will this resonate for people who have hesitations about Donald Trump and Ben Carson in light of the terror attacks?
Clearly, Ben Carson has taken a hit when it comes to his dealing with foreign policy, his talking about foreign policy. In New Hampshire, we saw a direct correlation on that question in our latest Fox News poll, a precipitous drop. Donald Trump, on the other hand, has not, and has kind of stayed pretty high in the polls on all issues, including foreign policy. I do think that you're going to see a barrage of what they call contrast ads, but I think what we call negative ads, and this is just the beginning. And you're going to see every campaign start to do that, to take a little bit of air out of the Trump balloon. Whether it works or not, I don't know. But it clearly in this environment, people are anxious.
I've been reading these stories about the Syrian refugees again, and there's some reports. Where is Fox on this? That they tried to come across the border in Texas, that they were stopped in the Honduras on the way to the United States. Have y'all seen anything on that? What are y'all reporting?
Yeah, we reported on it. The Honduras thing 2 days ago, and then followed up yesterday. There were 8 in Honduras, I think it is, and they were using fake Greek passports. They're not, authorities there say they're not tied to Paris. They're not saying whether there's any link to ISIS. The Syrian refugees who were coming across the border in Laredo, Texas, I think was a family, and they surrendered to immigration officers on the border. And so, listen, you are going to see more of these incidents. There have been people in Paraguay that were supposedly making their way to the U.S. In St. Martin. You are going to see more of this as more and more of these groups of refugees leave Europe and come here. Now, whether they're coming for nefarious purposes or just trying to get to America, as many do, we don't know.
All right, Bret Baier, special report, Fox News Channel, weekdays at 6 p.m. Always good to have you. By the way, listen, this is the last weekend before Thanksgiving. I know that your holiday schedule is filling up, but your friend James Rosen was just here at 7 o'clock. He wanted us to remind you that he's got a signing event at Politics and Prose, 6 p.m. tomorrow night. And I'm sure that he hasn't offered you a book yet, so if you want to get one.
No, you have to buy when you can.
I got one of the first signed copies from Mr. Rosen.
Wow.
So you will not be at Politics.
One-on-one with Cheney. I may swing by. To support our old friend.
Heckle him a little bit?
Yeah.
All right. Do a little... I understand there's a group that's willing to pay $5,000 to anyone who heckles him during the... Oh, no, that was Donald Trump.
No, that was Donald Trump.
Thanks, Bret.
Thanks, Bret. Appreciate it.